Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. There's the star of the show, Bugsy Malone, having a paddle. This is your Friday morning episode of Tottenham Walks. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love. Please do me a favour, guys. Smash the like button for me on the video, like you always do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Join the 13,300 Tottenham fans that have gone before. Welcome back to them. Welcome to the new. Hit the notification bell button if you haven't already, and hit the comment section as well after the video. Let me know your thoughts on today's show. Shout out to Johnny Depp and the Shark. How are you guys? Right, let me ask you some questions. How would you like to say hello to a man whose name is Allejo? I'm going to go with Aloha. Aloha, Allejo, Veliz. Late last night, I was asleep. Turned out that Tottenham had in fact won the race for his signature. And when I say the race, it wasn't really a long race. It looked like it came out of absolutely nowhere. But Fabrizio Romano gave us the here we go, and also said this morning, only half an hour ago, that in actual fact, Tottenham saw off the threat of a monster, a European monster. We don't know which club that was. There's other ITK Twitter things out there that are saying it could have been Milan. Someone else was saying it was Barcelona. Someone else I think was saying it was Napoli. Maybe it was none of them, I don't know. But in any event, you love to see it. You love to see it. We're massive, we're back. That's right. That doggy over there understands what I'm saying. You love to see it. Personally, I don't know if this guy's going to be a superstar or not. We saw some videos, I think it was from, was it from Vickery or Vickers? I forget the guy's name, who was on Sky Sports, who says, you know, he's a little bit underwhelmed by the player when he saw him at the Under-20 World Cup. You know, scored some good goals with his head, but he's fairly one-dimensional, fairly one-trick pony-ish at this particular stage of his career. Big, strong powerhouse of a player, but not much else to his game. And look, there's kind of meaningful information that can support that. I'll throw up, if I can find it, an overlay of one of those hexagons of statistics that shows him versus, I think it was Harry Kane that I saw. Obviously a stupid comparison to make, but I think if you just look at Vallejo's personal section, then you'll see that there's not a lot going on apart from in the very specific areas of goals and aerial threats and things. But look, the guy's 19, he's very highly sought after. And what I find really interesting about it, guys, is that that Rosario Central wanted to have him back until the end of their year. So a purchase with a loan back, and he would arrive in January, which to me on paper makes sense if we are buying one for the future and the future alone, and hoping that we're getting ahead of the curve. Because there is that risk. There's a long line of historical precedents of Premier League clubs buying players straight out of South America, straight out of Argentina, that are a lot cheaper than waiting until the secondary market gets involved, waiting until they go to places like Portugal or Spain, prove themselves there, and then Premier League clubs go and buy them once they've moved over to Europe and settled and hit the ground running. There's a long list of kind of failed attempts at bringing them direct in from Argentina or Brazil, and you know, we don't know which way this one's going to go. But the fact that Tottenham has decided not only to buy this guy but to also not loan him back suggests to me that there is a bit of a different plan that's involved for this guy, who, you know, may or may not be put straight into the first team squad. Obviously we don't know yet what's happening with Harry Kane. There's intimations, of course, when you read things like we did yesterday, that we're going after both Mickey van der Ven and Tapsoba. that maybe we're spending Harry Kane money, gift Orban, the links there are strengthening. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's just finish the Veliz story. To me, it's more of a indication, though, that the scouts at Tottenham, Gavinini and his team, have seen something in this guy that maybe makes them think that staying in Argentina is not particularly useful. Is it because of Harry Kane's impending absence and we need a player for the squad, or is it because they believe that what he has demonstrated is enough of the specific attributes that are required for someone in Postecoglou's system? And Postecoglou's system not only is high intensity and high pressure from the front, but also one that is exhausting and generally requires a lot of rotation in those forward players. So maybe they're looking at this kid and thinking, we've seen enough of him to think he's capable, obviously raw, but with the amount of turnover of players that is going to be needed in that area of the pitch during the games, even though we're only playing one game a week, that he will get minutes. He'll get 8 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there, occasionally 20 minutes. And if he does well, if he gets a goal or two, confidence can be built up, and then we can hit the ground running together and make things work. That's one option. Another option is you bring him over from Argentina and then you loan him out to a Spanish club, where maybe you could get a fee for him, or maybe you could just take that time and, rather than keep him in the place where we know he's already doing it, and bring him over to Europe, maybe even stay in the English setup, go to the Championship or something, and see if he can get acclimatized and acclimated into the Premier League geographical region. Don't know. It's interesting, but as it stands, there is no plan to loan him back, but the deal is done. So to me, I'm excited about it. I was talking with Johnny and Dave from the Irish Hotspur on my show yesterday. Really, really good show. I thought those two were on fire, bouncing off each other. Brilliant chemistry. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And those two were both super excited about what the future looks like. They were both talking about, phrases like our own class of 92 is emerging, with the likes of, who we've already got, Donnelly, Dorrington, Mikey Moore, a few other players that are kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but actually these two think are superstars waiting to happen. Plus you might be throwing in this Allejo guy. Maybe you'd include players like Pape Sarr, who are still very, very young, into that mix. What about Ashley Phillips coming in as well? That looks like it's going to be completed today, because his release clause is activated today. So expect some news with that over the next few hours, maybe over the weekend, if not today. To me, it does leave you with a sense of optimism, if not for the immediate, then certainly for the near future. Remember, we won the under-17s and under-18s cups last year in the Premier League. It's no small feat. So certainly we've got one eye on the now and one eye on the future. With regards to the one eye on the now, we're still waiting for confirmation on Mickey van der Ven. The numbers that we're talking about are getting larger and larger and larger by the tweet. People were saying it was £30 million. Today it's 40 million, 45 million euros. Some people are even saying it's 50 million, which is the number that I initially heard a couple of days ago. I mean, at some point, the expectation around this kid is not going to meet up to the valuation, or the reasonable expectation. I don't think anyone should be expecting this guy to come in and just be a monster straight away. He's raw, he's vulnerable, he's got so much potential, but he's not the finished article. We know that. We've spoken ad nauseum about his strengths and his weaknesses. And at some point, Wolfsburg are going to raise it to that number where the expectations might be unreasonable for a player that comes with that sort of price tag, and that does concern me a little bit. At the same time, guys, we've also got the situation with Edmund Tapsoba. That deal was not done, but it was being spoken about over the last couple of days. that they were still trying to get it done. However, this morning Dan Kilpatrick from the Standard has come out and said actually Tottenham are cooling their interest in Edmund Tapsoba, that the price tag is too high and we're going to go after other areas. Obviously we're still looking at the likes of Tosin Adarabioyo. In the background we've got that Roger Ibanez deal, but apparently I think it's West Ham have put in a bid for them, and Roma are asking for 40 million euros for him now, and it wasn't anything like that a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about it. So I don't know, I think as the window approaches its kind of final stages and the season approaches its opening day very quickly, maybe teams are less likely to budge on valuations, even increase them because of the disruption and the lack of time to find adequate replacements. All of these variables are taking place in real time, and it means that it's always a moving piece, a moving target. I really just hope that there's nothing kind of untoward going on with Wolfsburg's continual apparent changes in valuation, apparent willingness to do business. I really hope that we can get this one done, and if we can, then I think everything starts to look quite optimistic. There's still, for me, holes and problems in the squad, but I don't expect the squad to be perfect going into the first season. My expectations for the season are still fairly mooted. I don't expect Tottenham to finish to challenge for major honours. I'd like to see us do well in cups, go deeper in cups. I'd like to see Tottenham focus as much on cups as possible going forward, as I think that the gap between Manchester City and everybody else is so vast now that Premier League titles are far off in the distance in terms of aspirational hopes for me as a Tottenham fan. But cups, I think, if you get a bit lucky with the draw, and if you always take them as seriously as you can and give them your best shot, and you drive the interests of the players around that, that is a main focus on the training pitch, in the dressing room, then I don't see why Tottenham can't kind of 180 their mindset from what it has been over the last recent years when we go to places like Sheffield United or Nottingham Forest or Middlesbrough and seemingly take our foot off the gas. I'd rather see it that we actually double down and go harder than ever. Time will tell how Postecoglou wants to see it, but for me, get Mickey van der Ven in, get Ashley Phillips over the line, and then ideally one more centre-back of senior level. And then I think I'll be okay with whatever they decide to do with the midfield or the forward line. If they do to sell Harry Kane and they do get Gift Orban or someone else in, I'll be okay. If they decide not to, I'll be okay. I still have my thoughts on it, and you'll know that I think it's better to sell him than not, for me personally. But I understand the other side of the argument. But to round it off, guys, if we can get Mickey van der Ven done in the next 3 or 4 days, and ideally let him have 45 minutes against Barcelona, then I think Tottenham are getting there. Then the only kind of issues after that are just getting some of these players out of the door, but I'd rather have that issue reserved to be fixed after we have got the players in that we need. The only possible exception with that would be Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Maybe him going out the door or not should happen before we decide on whether or not to replace him with someone else. On that note, there's still bundles of options open. There really is. Players haven't necessarily agreed terms yet with any of these clubs that we've been looking at. Zubimendi, Locatelli, Sangare, even Amrabat hasn't actually been unveiled as a Manchester United player yet. So there's still lots of wiggle room and things to see pan out. But for me, guys, look, round it off. I've been talking for a long time this morning. I'm really excited about this Aloha to Allejo story. I don't know how he's going to be used immediately, but I really do get this feeling that over the next coming years, 2-3 years down the line, when a lot of these players that we have in the youth system mature, not all of them will make it, but some of them could have the propensity to become mainstream, first team players for Tottenham. And if the future is bright, then the future is lily white. Like, subscribe and comment, guys, and as always, bye bye.